I've been in business for 3+ decades. Started out doing lifestyle, a lot of healthcare, pharmaceutical, but my mainstay is really quirky conceptual humor, photography again for brands.
I'm Robin Morgan. I spent the last 20 years of my life as the editor-in-chief of the Sunday Times magazine. Decided that that was a managing decline in the print media and I wanted to start my own business, so I helped photographers that I'd commissioned over the years, famous photographers, some who didn't know how to manage their archives, to turn them into digital assets that we could monetize through fine art exhibitions, apparel, fashion ranges and other things.
Hi, my name is Andrea Barb. I am a advertising portrait celebrity photographer and I'm also a filmmaker.
My name is Mark Matsumoto and I'm a culinary creator based here in Tokyo, Japan.
My name is Al Satterwhite. I've been a photographer basically my entire life. I went into freelancing and working for magazines, and then I moved into advertising, moved to New York City, started my own production company, and then I went into filmmaking out in Hollywood.
Hi, my name is Steve McCurry. I have been photographing for 40 or 50 years. I travel around the world and photograph people, cultures, and document the world that we live in.
Copyright infringement is a big issue because there's not only just the moral component of ripping off somebody else's work, but it's also it hurts me as a creator. I'm not like a big movie studio or TV company. I do this for a living, and when people take my work without paying for it, it's basically taking money out of my pocket.
There is a huge swath of the population that thinks if it's on the internet, I can use it.
Efficient, respectful, and productive relationship that takes an awful lot of weight off my shoulders and allows me to concentrate on my business.
Hi, I'm Ted Van Cleve. I'm the co-founder of ImageRights. I'm also a photographer. My background is photography and art. I like to shoot the mid-century 1960s architecture, and I also got permission to shoot the Hollywood sign. I had some iconic shots of the Hollywood sign. After I put them up on my website, sent out some press releases with my images, it turns out I started seeing them in other places. Not only did I find them, but so did my friends. First off, I get a little flattered, but then I get really angry because, this impacts my income and my creativity and what I'm doing with these images. Most photographers, we're a one-person organization. We do everything. We, haul our equipment, we make the shoots, we set the appointments, we do the editing, and so on and so forth. And there was really no time in my life for me to be chasing down people who were stealing my images and using them without permissions or license. I thought about it some more, and I remembered working with Joe Naylor, who's the ImageRights president and CEO. We worked together years ago in Silicon Valley, and we were close friends. I reached out to Joe and told him I think there's an opportunity here to help other photographers and help the industry as a whole. After looking at all the different avenues, we decided to launch ImageRights, and we incorporated it in 2009. At ImageRights, we have a lot of photographers that have been with us for many, many years. And the reason why is that we built these personal relationships with them because they're not just a client, we're partners together in this. We're not like a regular service so that you just buy something from us. If you're a pro photographer and your images are being used without your permission or license, look us up, ImageRights.com, or give us a call or send us an email, and we'll be happy to give you a demonstration of our products. Thanks.
So first I want to thank Carlo Ang, who was the video producer that put this together. He did an amazing job. I wish he could have been here with us today. But this is a real problem that artists and photographers have that they have to contend with every day. And believe me, it's the very last thing they want to be spending their time on. They want to be doing their craft. They want to be shooting photos. They want to be creating illustrations. So as Ted mentioned in the video, we got together and figured out a way to address this problem for photographers. And it's a colossal problem. At this point, there's over 1 billion images uploaded to the internet every day. It's new content, it's shared content, it's reposted content. And it's too much for one person to manage. And in fact, it's pretty tough for a company to manage. And so the way that we were able to actually address the issue was really going and developing our entire platform ourselves and developing AI that kind of manages every step of the process, from the point that our clients upload their images to our system to the time that we resolve a client. And so from, analyzing the value of a photo when it's uploaded, to understanding where we should search, where that photo is likely to be. When we do find it, is it something that our clients should be spending their time looking at? Is there actually something actionable there? And then when they do submit claims, we have AI that provides guidance to our in-house team on what would be the best approach as far as how to pursue this claim with the goal of getting our clients paid. And so today we process over 3 billion images, meaning we analyze over 3 billion that we found online. To compare them against our clients' images, we have about 25 million client images in our system today. And at this point, we're finding about a little over 180 million uses of our clients' images every year, which comes to just shy of about 500,000 a day. And so you can imagine it would be completely overwhelming if we didn't have the technology to then dig deeper into those findings to ascertain which ones we should really be looking at and which ones our clients should be looking at. And so what's the results? We brought in over $30 million in lost fees for our photographers over the years. Then another area that I'm really proud of deals with copyright registration with the Copyright Office. So when Ted and I started the company, ASMP, which is an American Society of Media Photographers, had done a study, survey of their membership, and found that only 3% of them registered with the Copyright Office. And it's literally the single most important thing you can do to protect your work. And here, 3 out of 100 professional photographers were doing it. And the issues were basically that it was hard for them to do, they didn't want to do it, when they tried they didn't understand the questions, or they were afraid to get something wrong, and so they would abort. And so we took that on, we started offering the services of registering the works, and then in 2015 we automated it fully. To this day I believe that we're still the only company doing that. And since we started registering works, we've now crossed over 1.25 million images, photos, and 2D illustrations registered with the Copyright Office. And we've made it incredibly easy and painless for our clients. They can actually literally submit a registration in under a minute. And then because we have error checking and reviews of the applications before the submission, we very rarely have issues with the application. So there's very little correspondence required with the specialist reviewing it. And the result is we get, typically we get our certificates back in a week or two, which is way faster than average. And then just kind of the last area I wanted to touch on was how does it work from a financial perspective? What's the model for the clients? So when somebody is interested in working with us, we'll talk with them, ask them what kind of content do you produce, how do you distribute it, what's the value, do you register with the Copyright Office, if not, would you be willing to? And if it's a good fit, then we'll work with them, and basically there's no upfront cost to them. We'll pursue claims on their behalf. If there's legal costs incurred, we'll actually front those costs. We don't want the risk or exposure of that kind of expense to prevent a photographer from pursuing their claims. And then once we settle, if an attorney's involved, they'll take their fees. We'll back out any hard costs if any were incurred, and then we split what we call the net recovery 50-50 with the artist. And so with that, if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But otherwise, we have a table set up over there if you want to see a demo of the platform, or if you just have other questions that come up in your head later, we're happy to talk to you. Thank you.
Joe?
Yep.
I have a question.
I do have a question. Given that your funding and cost is really not a lot of risk to people, do you see reluctance among professional photographers to actually enforce their rights or to pursue types of claims? And why do you think you come up against that reluctance?
So, this is just my personal experience with talking to thousands of photographers. My sense is most of them don't like the conflict. They don't want to be going after some site, but at some point, there's something just that hits them, like it's a particularly egregious infringement, or as a special photo or work of theirs, and they saw it used in a way that was just reviling to them. Maybe it was on a site that had a different type of perspective or political angle or something like that, and that's the thing that finally triggers them to act. And then they'll come and speak with us, they see how we work, and then they're like, oh, okay, these guys can actually take care of this for me, it's not going to be a huge burden on me, and then it ends up being a pretty good relationship. So I'd say that's very typical of how we bring in new clients.
I was just going to ask, there we go. In addition to doing the enforcement, you're crawling and finding all of these images. Have you ever offered or thought about offering anything, two different kind of ways to use that, tracking for people where their images show up? Because I know as an agency, our contributors ask us all the time, like, where did my images get used? They see the revenue report, but can you show me the article? And then we're like Googling and going around looking. Yeah. So is that something you've ever considered? And then the other one is we do a lot of SEO work, and people will put big image sets out there, and when other sites come and kind of take the images and use them, they'll go and say, well, you can still have it if you give me a backlink, if you link back to my site, which has a big impact from an SEO perspective. So other ways to monetize, I guess, the findings, is that something that you do or have considered?
So it's certainly something we've considered over the years, and frankly, the platform and the technology behind it, the database we have, it can be used for those purposes. But we made the conscious decision to really focus on what we do for photographers. And so we provide the services for the photographers and their representatives, photo agencies and so forth. We are starting to get more brands to sign up because a lot of companies actually shoot their own product photos, and then we'll often have competitors or other companies just basically scrape those and compete with them. And so we've really just chosen to focus on the market that we really started the company to address.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? Yeah, Alex?
Do you add any watermarks or anything like that to images, or do you search the web for finding copies?
So that's a good question. In the early days, we took a really hard look at watermarking. And this was 2008, 9. And there were companies, well-funded companies, who were already doing watermarking, and then tracking, like Mark Monitor comes to mind. But what we were seeing is, especially at that time, it kind of didn't matter if they were watermarked or not. People were still kind of, at that time, cropping them out. I mean, there's digital watermarks today, but at the end of the day, photos are still just ending up out there being infringed, whether they were watermarked or not. And so we just decided to stay on the side of, we're going out searching images, we're not using metadata, it's all pixel-based search and matching, and that's what we're going to focus on as opposed to trying to offer watermarking as well. Thank you.
Is there such a thing as registering a whole website, or do we have to go and register each photo, one photo at a
So
time?
I'm not an attorney, so I can't give legal advice, but you can register a whole website.
With all the content.
But the problem is, and again, Nancy right here should probably be the one. So the problem is that if you're registering the website, it's one work, in a sense. And so you want to register the photos so that if you have multiple photos infringed, you can you can go after multiple damages.
So if you register your stock photo website, that will be as a brand, Not as one word.
You don't want to register something as just a compilation, because a compilation has one individual registration, so that would be just one statutory damages. So it's rare that all the images ever get taken at the same time. But they do have a group registration or photograph on registration for either published or unpublished works. The other thing is, if you're not the copyright owner of all the works, you can't register them all together either. So if you register your website, it's probably pictures that are licensed to you from individual photographers. That won't help. They really should take their images before they upload them to you, and you can do 750 at once and register them as unpublished photos, and then each one is given individual statutory damages if they get infringed.
Thanks, Nancy. She can say that. She's an attorney.
Other questions?
Because there's a charger.
Sure. All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right, give us a minute to switch presentations, and then we're going to hear from Joel and SmartFrame.